Coach, Will talked about the rivalry. Besides both teams being good, what has made this such a rivalry in such a short period of time?
I would say that the the games that we've played have had meaning, like the semifinal. Anytime you play in a semifinal against a team, uh, we played them twice in the playoffs now. Those are high pressure games. They came to our place on their first game. They beat us on opening day, so their first victory in MLS was against us. So lots of things, but I'd still throw it back to you've got two super highly competitive organizations. I mean, we want to win everything. They want to win everything. I think that's one of the real big keys to the rivalry.
Coach, you beat Minnesota last week pretty convincingly. They were a team you faced in the playoffs last year, and as was just talked about, you have a big rivalry with LAFC, and they're really good. So, do you think if you can get all 3 points this weekend, do you think that it's only 2 games into the season, but beating two quality teams like this, do you think that sends a sort of message, or you make some sort of statement by beating two really high quality teams like that?
Yeah, no, I do not look at it that way. Actually, just so you guys can prep for some more questions. Look, we weren't as a coaching staff. Yeah, the scoreline was 4-0, but that game that could have been a way different scoreline. I mean, yes, Raul missed the penalty to put us in front, but they clanked the ball off the post on a really tremendous pass from Reynoso to a deep runner. Christian saved that one off the line. Yeah, the scoreline looks 4-0 and it looks pretty good. But there were a lot of things that we wanted to correct and fix throughout the course of the week. Then you are absolutely correct in the sense that it's early season. And yes, I would love to get 3 points against LAFC. I'd love to give, 3 points against anybody, Portland, Vancouver, RSL early in the year, because you never know when your team's going to take a dip in form or luck doesn't go your way or things happen. And you're going to need those points at the end of the year. So for us, there's no sort of statements being put out now. We're still focused just on how to make sure that our team plays up to the standards that we try and play to.
Brian, looking over the tape, which I'm sure you've done already, what are maybe some of the things that you want to see happen quicker for this formation to work better, and especially maybe building out of the back that kind of was a struggle at the beginning of the game?
Well, I liked Will's answer about how we didn't anticipate how high they would press. We understood that they would have revenge and all of that sort of stuff. But uh, Adrian threw us for a loop a little bit. I mean, he committed 4 players to press high up the field, so they almost pressed 4-2-4, and so we weren't ready for that, and we had to make those halftime adjustments to make sure that we could get past their first line of pressure and get us into the areas that we wanted to play. So with LAFC, we know kind of what they're doing. Bob hasn't changed his style ever since he took over LAFC. So we might be a little more prepared for that, Nico. But to your point, ball has to move fast. The guys have to have the right vision. You're going to be under pressure. Calmate, little tranquilo. Make sure you're not panicking. make sure that we don't take too many risks in front of our goal because they have quality to make us pay. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that, Nico. It's, yes, the tactics. Where's your initial setup? How do you, try and counter their pressing in a 4-3-3? But there's also the mental side of things. And, look, to be honest, I thought our guys looked a little nervous trying to play out of the back in certain moments in the first half against Minnesota.
Hey, Coach, hope you're doing well. Obviously, Montero and Bruin give you such different looks. Does that give you a chance to mix and match Raul's partner based on what you see from your opponent? Or would you prefer have an ideal starting pair all season long?
Jason, I'd love to be able to mix and match. I'd love to mix and match. I mean, they're all three going to play. You know, they're all going to play considerable minutes. We're always going to be missing. How we set that up, you know, that's actually a luxury for us as coaches. So I'm very definitely in the camp of we're gonna fine tune that to get, you know, each individual game. What do we want out of it tactically?
Hey, Brian.
Coach.
Sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Actually, what about the luxury of the midfielders and those players' ability to read the forwards, regardless of which one of those three or maybe another full forward that's there?
You mean how we get the ball into Raul, Will, and Freddie?
Yeah, their ability to figure out either one of those three's runs.
Well, what I would say there, Maz, is that, look, Will's been around, Raul's been around. I think JP's been around long enough. Christian's been around long enough. You know, even Josh Atencio, Nico. I mean, look, we kind of know Raul. We know Will. Now, Freddie's the new one. Freddie's the one that we've incorporated in preseason. And, you know, you heard Will say, you know, he hadn't had a chance to play with Raul a lot in that formation, but he had a chance to play with Freddie. And, you know, maybe there's a little bit of more comfort there with Will, with Freddie, just because he took most of the reps in preseason. As soon as Freddie is acclimated more within the group, I think your answer will be pretty simple. Each one of them has strengths. I think the guys that are passing the ball to our forward, they're all smart soccer players. They know where Will likes it, how he likes it. They know, you know, Will can be the more hold-up guy. Freddie plays in the pockets. Raul always stretching in between the center backs. So I think we'll get there. It's just a matter of familiarity.
Coach, how are you, Coach?
Good, Alonso.
The LAFC head coach earlier, he said that Ruiz Diaz, for whatever reason, he always sharp when they face LAFC. But you as a coach, how do you feel going there at the moment when your forwards either score and assist?
Well, I love having Raul, Will, everybody available to play against LAFC because we're going to need everybody. I'm thankful that Bob appreciates Raul's talent. I think all of us do. You know, that's always good to hear other coaches having respect for your players. And it's vice versa. I mean, Carlos Vela, what can you say? I mean, he's a tremendous player. Tuesta, Kay, Blessing, what a good midfield they have. Rossi, I mean, they have a good team too. So that's why it's always a big game. You know, to the question earlier about a good rivalry, I think big time players step up in those big moments. And you certainly can label Raul as a big time player. He scored many, 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 many important goals for this club.
In that same sense, Brian, talking about what Bob Bradley said earlier today, he mentioned that Vela wasn't fully training and Diego Rossi wasn't quite 100%. How much do you focus on that, or do you just kind of make a game plan as if they were to play?
Well, I wish I was on the call earlier. I would have changed my tactics. Of course we prepare for, you know, our opponent. And look, we're not always privy, and Bob has usually kept a pretty, you know, cards close to his chest. So I'm surprised. Obviously, I wasn't on the phone call, but, you know, if they play, fine. If they don't play, that's fine too. We still know a little bit about how he plays, his style of play, whether Carlos is on the field or Rossi or, you know, Masovsky or Corey Baird, who came in and did well for them. They had the young kid that came on against us in the playoffs last year. I mean, they have talented kids, they have talented players. So we'll prepare for them as if those players are going to play, and if they don't, well, you know, then we'll just adjust if we need to, and, you know, make further adjustments at halftime based on what we see.
Brian, what did you like about your defense? I mean, you pitched a shutout.
Uh, well, I liked what I liked about our defense, Maz, is that yes, obviously shutout, the scoreline statistics, yes. What I liked is there was some, good cohesion on the left side, with Nuhu covering a lot of stuff. The right side I felt was good, with Shane and Alex. I thought that's good because you got to, think about it in pairs in the wide channels. The three in the middle, Maz, there were some times when I thought they needed to be a little more equal in their spacing. How high of a line did Javi push up? Some of those things I think we can improve on. Reynoso, as I'm thinking about it now, you mentioned that Reynoso overloaded their right side, our left side, and I thought we did an okay job of trying to control that. I mean, again, the one time they clanked it off the post, I think that was a transition moment more than, Minnesota's buildup. But when Reynoso came inside and he had that little counter pass, how did we deal with that? So it was still a work in progress for me, Maz, but certainly a lot of positives because look, Minnesota is going to be a good team. Don't let 0-4 scare you. They're going to be in the thick of it come the end of the year.
Staying on that topic, now that Masvidal brings it up in a great way, talking about Javier Arriaga, he had a good game, but did it seem at times, I mean, me watching over the game over a couple of times this week, was he chasing a little too far or higher than perhaps you would want him chasing out of that three-man back line? Or did you feel like that was okay? His aggressiveness was pretty good to your understanding.
It depends, Nico. Look, we came into this year trying to tweak different things. Okay, yes, the lineup is the big thing that everybody sees, 2 forwards, all of that. But there were other smaller but important things that we wanted to try and improve on from last year and the last 4.5 years. So one of them was holding a little more aggressive line, making sure the team is compact front to back. And that's maybe when you see us having a little bit of a higher line, and there's obviously some risk there. If there's no pressure on the ball, we must drop off. But the beauty of having 3 center backs is, and Nico, the direct answer is I'd rather Nuhu or Shane press higher up the field because, Javi has to be the anchor. But even if Javi does step with a true number 9, there was only one forward. If Javi does step aggressively, then it's Nuhu's job and Shane's responsibility to kind of provide some cover for Javi. So that's the beauty of playing with 3 center backs.
So you were pretty happy with his performance?
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, going off of what you said about Minnesota maybe catching you a little off guard, Will also talked about one of the things you've been working on in practice this week is controlling the ball when a team is high pressing. So I was just curious, when you deal with a team that's pressing and you're either preparing for it or making halftime adjustments, is that more of something you deal with in the game or in training, trying to get your players more acclimated to teams that press you high?
Mickey, we always try and do it prior to the game. You guys have seen our club start slow in the first half. I think there was a narrative out there at some point in time where the Sounders were notoriously slow starters, and then somehow we pick it up as the game progresses. You go into halftime, you make adjustments, and we've come out in the second half in many games, and we've got some points. But we always try and prepare prior to. We look at our opponent. We balance, of course. Do we work more on ourselves? To some of the questions earlier, are we working on our new formation? Or are we, preparing for an opponent that's pretty well known to us? Bob doesn't change the way he plays. He's still going to play the same way, 4-3-3, high press. So that's always a balance. But for sure, we always try and take care of it before the game.
Coach, what was your impression of the new formation and how you thought it worked against Minnesota?
I mean, mixed reviews. I mean, again, I'm not complaining about the scoreline, but I think there's areas that we need to improve. It was just the first game and a ton of positives, 4 really fantastic goals. I mean, nobody's asked me about the quality of the goals. Maybe that's an old storyline leading up to LA, but I mean, those 4 goals were fantastic. I mean, those were world-class goals. So plenty to be happy about. But again, it's early in the season. There's still work to be done.
Coach, I want to talk about Raul Ruiz and Freddy Montero as partners. And you had also Obafemi Martin and Clint Dempsey. Do you see any success for these 2 players that you already have? They are both super experienced players.
Yeah, Freddie can play with anyone. Raul can play with anyone. They're both talented players. I think, Felipe, your comparison of Clint and Oba versus Freddie and Will and Raul, look, they're all different. I mean, all 5 of those players are different. And how they work together as a pair, as a solo forward, or, the success that they've had for this club, all 5 of them have been tremendous players for our club. And yes, I have high hopes that Freddie will play well with Raul, that Raul will play well with Will. Will play good with Freddie. That's again the benefit of having 3 experienced forwards on the current roster.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, do you have any updates on Nico's health?
Yeah, he's running around the field, but I'll be candid like Bob and say he's probably not going to make it on the charter tomorrow.
There any?
I did have one or more. And sorry about the background here. I know it's a little busy, Brian, but
that Franz Bauer in the background.
5. You had 5 players playing this game who either went to high school or college in the region. Is that something that you take any particular pride in as a local? Actually, 6 players in the game, but 5 that played for you. Do you take any particular pride in having that kind of local connection to the Sounders still at this point?
So you're talking about the kid that played at Crossfire. His name's escaping me now. Is that the 6th one?
Yeah, exactly. He would be the 6th. Hassani Dodson.
Yeah, Hassani. Yeah, of course, Jeremiah. I mean, look, I was proud of Jeff Stock, Mark Peterson, Jimmy McAllister. And then there was me and Chance and some of that crew. And then you had, Billy Crook and Dickie McCormick and Jeff Wall. I mean, there was a ton of players that have come out of this area. Bernie James, I can't forget Bernie. Look, the Northwest has always, pushed out good, talented soccer players. Jeff Durgan, Cosmos, going way back there. I mean, there's been a lot of players from this area that have had successful careers. So in that sense, yes, I do take some pride that, we are a hotbed of soccer, although, some people might not say that. Back in my day when I was growing up, it was St. Louis and LA. Those were the soccer hotbeds. And then New Jersey had a spell, and now it's Dallas and LA again, the LA region and stuff like that. But yeah, the Pacific Northwest turns out some, pretty hardy players or resilient players, I would say.
Brian, obviously, Josh Atencio had a fantastic game. But then that also perhaps puts a little bit of pressure on other young players. Garth Lagerway, I believe this week, said something about Danny Leyva perhaps playing a lot for Defiance. How do you make sure that a young, talented kid stays up, motivated, when perhaps he might not get as much playtime because there's a lot of competition there?
You're talking about Danny Leyva?
Yes.
Well, there's nothing. Look, last time I checked, I'm the one that makes the decisions as far as where Danny is playing. He might play at Defiance, but he might break through as well. I mean, we're going to need a lot of these young players during, a stretch of games. And Danny doesn't need extra motivation. I think he already knows that Josh is a good player. But at some point, I thought I saw somewhere in an article that I read, Sounded Hard or somewhere, maybe there's two cornerstones of our franchise, for the future, Danny and Josh. So, I mean, I'm not taking Danny Leva out of the picture, Ethan Doubleair out of the picture. You guys have heard me talk about Reed and Juan and some of the other kids. We've got talented kids in our organization, and we will take each one of those kids and, yes, view them as a collective, as young players, Nico, but each one of them might have a subtly different development path. And we will talk about the kids. We will chart a future, plan a future for them, and hopefully most of them will have, a successful career.
All right. It was a good problem to have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, Danny's looked sharp in training. And, there's a conversation going around. Why did, Josh has looked really good. And, he stayed up with us last year, up in our training environment. And, I think that he made some strides. And so, there's in a perfect world, Nico, in a perfect world, the young players would train with us and get games down in Defiance. I mean, that's in a perfect world, but until COVID restrictions, until all of that stuff, goes away, we got to make choices. Right now, Danny's training with us and he's training very well.
Thank you.
Along those lines, Brian, today it was mentioned by the Atlanta coach that he would like to see more flexibility, I guess, in MLS roster rules that maybe allow you to use academy kids who aren't signed to contracts at the first team level. Is that something that you would actually like? Does there need to be more flexibility in that, or do you think that if a player is good enough to play, he's probably good enough to sign?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. When you first started asking that question, it was like, well, yeah, why not? I mean, why wouldn't you? But then, look, there's specific pathways, and if the kid is really good enough, maybe he should already be signed to the first team, and they have a second team. I mean, if the kid's not ready, jumping right from the academy to the first team, they have a landing spot for those kids that need some games down at the USL level. So intriguing question when it just popped up, but with a little bit of thought behind it. I think we're on the right path here in Seattle. So, I'll leave it at that.
Coach, just to maybe get you out of here on a more lighthearted note, I was wondering if you've ever made a mistake in your career. It seems like Bob Bradley accidentally subbed out Carlos in the 22nd minute. Just because
I've made plenty of mistakes in my career.
Have you ever had a miscommunication like that just led you to make a mistake like that?
Define mistake, because each coach takes a loss as a mistake, or what could I have done better instead of a mistake. Maybe you say it that way, but yeah, I'm sure down the line somewhere long ago I've made a bad sub or a sub too quick, or back in those days, concussions, you used to throw guys back on the field even if they had a concussion, and that's a mistake. I know that now. Or you make a sub and the guy says, no, coach, I want to play. But, Bob's a tremendous coach. Whatever happened, I don't know the details. If Carlos hasn't been training this week, maybe there was an injury. So maybe Bob didn't make a mistake.
Thanks.
Any final questions for Coach Schmetzer?
Yes, one question, Matt, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead, Alonso.
Thank you. Coach, you were mentioning Xavier Arriaga, and I want to ask, it's early in the season still, but how mentally is he? Because the last two seasons, when it comes to playoff, he hasn't been able to participate in the team.
Well, you're talking about 2019 and 2020.
Yes, Coach.
So in 2019, it was just my decision to play Ramon Torres in the final. And I think that was the right choice. 2020, his wife was having a baby, and the birth of your child is an important event. And so that's why he didn't play in the 2020 final. So Javi has a good mentality, strong mentality, and I'm happy that he's here on the team.
Coach, speaking of babies, those are your grandkids, right?
Those are my 2 grandkids. We have another one on the way. I am so excited that at my age, Chris, I get to, have grandchildren to spoil and play with and stuff like that. They're great. We love them tremendously. I'm going to see Uma this weekend down in LA. She lives down in LA. We see Scotty, from time to time when it's safe. We've got our vaccinations, so we are enjoying being grandparents for sure.
That's awesome. Appreciate it, Coach.
I guess I'll follow up with one quick last one. You mentioned vaccinations, and Stefan Fry mentioned that most of the team had been vaccinated. Are you satisfied with the progress there? You hope to have the entire team fully vaccinated here in the next month or so?
Well, I'll back out of that question by saying it like this. I hope that everyone in this country gets a vaccination at some point, because it's critical to get more vaccinations, to get everybody healthy, to get this country back to normal. That's what I hope for. That's what I wish for. It'll get more fans in the stadiums, all of the good things, getting back to normal, some semblance of normalcy. That's what I wish for.